The Fax Wrangler is almost like the point guard, where the point guard not always the number one scorer, but they're passing it off to the billing team, passing it off to the rehab team.
Our Fax Wranglers is the ones in the front end, and if they mess it up, it just all goes down.
It has
to
a
the
cascading
billing.
effect.
Yes.
So what are the problems if we don't handle faxes appropriately? Welcome to Offsite Team Podcast, where we are here to help you out, especially if you have had problems with faxes. So at Offsite Team Member, we understand the challenges faced by durable medical equipment companies, rehab, and respiratory business leaders in their quest to find dependable and affordable employees who also know Brightree. Today, we're talking about faxes and how hard faxes can be, or at least time-consuming and expensive, especially if they don't turn into really profitable orders. So we've created a revolutionary workforce solution that resolves this problem, enabling DME, respiratory, and rehab businesses to thrive with a reliable and cost-effective team. Imagine a world where you never have to worry about finding trustworthy employees again to figure out, how am I going to answer all these faxes? Because you want to go out and grow your business. You want your team members to take care of your faxes. So a world where your business operates smoothly with a team that consistently delivers excellence. Offsite Team, we're here to make that vision a reality for you. So our proven system starts with a deep understanding of the unique needs and pain points of the DME industry, as well as how to use Brightree or whatever your CRM that you use for your company. We know that a dependable workforce is crucial to your success, and we've built our platform to address those specific needs head on. Let's just start. I hate faxes. That's I might offend you, April. What's your opinion of faxes, by the way? Do you like faxes?
Actually, no, because I feel like it's routine. Like every day, it's the same thing.
Every day, it's the same thing. Order comes in.
But don't get me wrong. There are times that when I'm really overwhelmed with what I'm doing, I go back to fax because it's it's a baseline of the process. And I get to know a lot of things. Oh, this is DME. There's lots of learning in there.
Well, in the old days, I would get really excited about faxes because when we started our business 20 years ago, I was selling. And the fax was like, hey, so-and-so is going to get an order or a CPAP machine or you name it. I'd get so excited. But then there were the old, here's a fax, it's Blue Cross and it's a cane. And I'm just like, oh, shoot me. Because it's going to take all this time to barely make, to lose money. And so faxes are really frustrating. In the old days, it used to drive me nuts because this is before our offsite team. You guys have been amazing. Everyone, we would either put the faxes off too long and we'd put them off a day or two. That's not good business practices. Right. So you put them off, you can lose sales because then they're like, did you get it or not? Or we were paying our employees massive overtime to get all the faxes done that day for the next business day. Well, that was hard because if you pay someone overtime to do a cane fax, I don't know. I haven't looked at the DME fee schedule yet, but I'm assuming it's somewhere between $8 and $12 reimbursement for a cane. Oh, how expensive. Just take $5 from me and let me not do the order. And so faxes are a problem, aren't they?
Yes. And I remember way back when I started, that's how the company works. So we don't have a Fax Wranglers yet. And then a few months after that, then that's when we hired the offsite team to work on the Fax Wrangling.
This was not one of our very first positions for our offsite team members. But it was one of those things we were asking, what are our pain points and what could be done? And we're like, what about a fax wrangle? And I'm like, what do you mean wrangle? Well, think of like the old Wild West cowboy. Let's go wrangle them, wrangle some cows. Well, let's go wrangle some faxes because you have all these faxes coming in and you have to figure out, one, you have to get them into your operating system. We use Brightree. So the fax needs to get into Brightree as fast as possible. Correct. Then we need to verify the insurance. Do they have Medicare, Medicaid, Blue Cross, you name it, Molina, CHPW, you name it. Centene. Then what's their deductible? What's this? And then we need to call the patient and let them know we have your fax. We have it. Do you want to come get your stuff? Do you want to put it aside and get it ready for them? Or maybe they don't even want to do business because it might be one of those things. Oh, I didn't really need a walker. I have a $5,000 deductible. My doctor told me I had to do it. But if that's the case, you need to then take them out of your queue because they're never going to come into your store in the first place, right?
Yes. Correct.
So when you started wrangling faxes for us, that wasn't your first job, but other people, you have wrangled faxes before. Your husband
Yes.
was a great fax wrangler. So you know fax wrangling more from your husband, who also works for us. What did
Yes,
you learn
correct.
about the fax wrangling process?
So the important thing on that one is how keen to details you are. You want to make sure that you're really
Has to be
checking
right.
everything. Yes. So it's not like getting the documents, uploading it. No, you have to make sure that you're also reading it, because sometimes there can be like a prescription. It can say oxygen, and then there's study underneath. So if you're not, if you're like a picky reader, you're not reading through the details, then you will get things mess up, because the way we work is like a domino effect. So our fax wranglers is the ones in the front end, and if they mess it up, it just all goes down
It
up
has
to
a
the billing.
cascading effect. So if you
Yes.
have one, if you have anyone listening to us, you know, if you've had an employee misread a fax, it can create all sorts of problems where there are multiple items for the order. Let's say CPAP with supplemental oxygen. I love those, by the way, because it's not only a CPAP order, it's an oxygen order as well, too.
Correct.
Love those. But your fax wrangler has to be able to read both those. Also, they can mess up where they are working on something, but let's say you're not contracted with that insurance company. Well, we don't want to hold and start working that. And, oh, I did everything. You're ready to come in and get your CPAP machine or oxygen. Oh, yeah, we're not contracted with blank insurance. Well, you want to move them over to that other company as soon as possible. We all know those nationals, they're just going to drop ship them anyway, which is why it's so cheap. So having a fax wrangler that knows what they're doing is vitally important.
Correct.
Now, some of it also is how fast can they process faxes? So let's actually, before I jump into that, when we started having our offsite team run our faxes, our US-based employees went bonkers. They like, oh, how dare you? We can do this. I'm like, I know you can do this, but you hate it. You tell me every day, I hate faxes. I hate staying late. And they pushed up against it because they were so worried about what would happen. And I said, just trust me. And what happened was once our offsite team started doing faxes, they loved it. Now, do you know why they liked it so much?
Because there is no more staying late.
No, then you got to go home. We close at 6 o'clock. Other companies go at 5. They got to go home. It's like 6:05. They're out. They count the till. They're done. It allowed them to get home at a decent time. It's wonderful. Why else do they like it so much?
It lessens their job, and they don't have to, scroll through the documents. And sometimes it confuses you, right?
Oh, it can confuse it. It was really funny. He's still here at our company. He was so against having offsite fax wranglers. And I'm like, just trust me. And this guy, he hated faxes. He truly hated faxes. We won't mention his name. And I said, just trust me. And we started running it. And then, so what happens is we have our fax wrangle team. They run everything for him. And then they message internally. We have some back-end processes. If you want to hire one of our team members, we'll tell you our super secret way that we do this. We then message him. And what he does is he loves it because he can make that many more phone calls, because he'll then call them and say, hey, we've already verified everything for you. We're ready to go. Would you like to pick up this whatever widget that was prescribed? And his sales have literally tripled or quadrupled since we brought in fax wrangles. It's amazing. He loves it now. He has so much free time. His sales have gone up. He goes out to our showroom floor. He's on our communications team. He can sell both places. We know who this is. And he's a rock star. The fax team has allowed this to happen. It's amazing. Absolutely amazing. But it's been a work in progress. So we've had a number of people who have been fax wranglers. And most of the people we hire for the offsite team, this is where we start them. And we start them as fax wranglers because it gets them to know our system really, really well before we even jump. So if we hire someone to do oxygen documentation, PAP documentation, you name it, we will start with fax wranglers because it's basic data entry. How do you get into Brightree? How do you input it? How do you verify whatever insurance data it is? And once they figure that out, then we jump them from being a fax wrangler directly to whatever documentation or the communications team. It's a great jump off point. I'm not going to go into how we did it, but it was your husband who created this. He was working it, and all of a sudden I'm looking at his KPIs. I'm like, why is he 3 times better than anyone else? And we don't want to give away our secrets, but we'll share it with your company if you get someone with us. Your husband figured out how to triple the fax faxes he processed in a general day. It was insane. And we're like, oh, that's brilliant. He created a back-end system to basically triple the number of faxes. So not only Offsite Team is way more affordable than US-based team, but on top of that, he was tripling the workload. So it was like a win-win-win. And he doesn't work on the Fax Wrangling team because he just knocked it out of the park, but we still instituted his system, and he's brought that to other aspects of the company. So that's really kind of neat. There's some things we can do to process faxes faster. Say that 3 times fast. What are the problems if we don't handle faxes appropriately? What can happen?
Well, it can also lead to denials of the claim. Like, for example, if there is a patient that we're not able to input even the gender of the patient, some insurance will deny the claim on that one because we miss it. So I think that's one of the most important things that we don't want to happen. So,
or if let's say the diagnosis code's missing.
Yes, correct.
Or the wrong diagnosis is there. The number of times we've had certain, our fax wrangling team is not fully trained in billing, but they know enough to be dangerous. Whereas if we get a prescription with no diagnosis code, well, we're going to call and say, hey, I need to know why you need a CPAP machine. Because if they say, I need a CPAP machine because I'm just going to throw something out here. Let's say I have an ulcer on my leg. Well, that's not going to be covered because you need obstructive sleep apnea with the appropriate number, whatever is required with the LCD. They know enough to understand this is what we're looking for. If you need diabetic shoes, you've got to have a diagnosis of diabetes. And so they can really help speed the process up. Or let's say that's missing. Then they'll hand it off to the comms team and say, hey, will you call this patient and say, hey, we've received your prescription for diabetic shoes. We've noticed these 3 things are missing. Can you help us with that? My doctor said I just needed a nice pair of shoes. There's actually nothing wrong with me. Okay. They now know what to do with that. If that's the case, we'd still love to sell you a great pair of shoes. It's going to be cash because you don't have the right diagnosis code. Or we need these 2 things. It's got to be from an MD. And this is what we need to get covered. So what they do is they really speed the process up. So our comms team can in turn answer so many more calls way more efficiently. So what are some of the problems besides those that, let's say, a fax wrangler might run into when orders come in?
They might run into issues like not getting the fax.
So you don't get the fax. What do you do?
Doctor's office will be calling us, letting us know we've sent it over, should be with you, but we never receive it. So, we do have different lines that our fax wranglers are really good at checking from time to time. Now, what they do is they send out a fax request for those missing documentation. So not only that they do fax wrangling, they also know how to analyze things, and they know when to send and request for those missing documents.
And our fax wranglers really are, like, if you think of basketball is huge in the Philippines. The fax wrangler is almost like the point guard, where the point guard, not always the number 1 scorer, but they're passing it off to the billing team, passing it off to the rehab team, passing it off to the communications team, and they know what to do. And then it might go to the comms team, but they don't have enough info. It's then passed back to the point guard, i.e. fax wrangler, and then they're forwarding it off to the next department. And we have this whole system built. And so anyone who gets a team member through us, not only do you get a great offsite team member in the Philippines, you also get our back end system that we're going to give you, the checklist that we're going to give you. All of this is going to allow you to take care of your customers better and get paid faster. So it's not just the employees, it's all of that comes along with it. It's like, hey, it's like getting a good cup of Coca-Cola at a restaurant, but you also know you get the free refills with it. It's just not the bottle. Hopefully you like Coca-Cola. So any other problems with fax wrangling you think of?
Aside from not being able to be very keen with the details, I think that's the only thing. If you don't know the documents that you're holding, then that can lead to a problem too, because you can ruin the patient's account. Like if you're not sure if it's a chart notes, like the difference between chart notes, occupational therapy notes. So you really have to make sure you know those details. So that's another issue.
And then you can also track them. You can see what doctors are they coming from. There's even some ways, actually, I'm not going to go down there. people can ask me, there's some other things we can use to increase sales through faxes, but call me and ask me, hey, Eric, you referenced on your podcast this. There's some neat things that we've been able to do by faxes coming in from providers and some back end things that we've built in that can really increase sales, and it has for us. And we'll utilize that also with our inside and outside sales team, where we're taking some of this back-end data from faxes that come in, we're handing it over to our sales team. They're then going back to the doctors, because a lot of things, if you can pick up on certain trends, if you can make life easier on those doctors, they're going to want to send even more business to you. Because really, I'd love to say all the doctors go with us because they like us best. That's not the case. They want to go with a DME provider or rehab provider that makes their office and their patients' lives better. That's really what it's about. How can we come alongside them, and what does that look like? And it's a very it's a collaborative event, and it's also allowed us to. We currently have 5 locations, and it's allowed us to really work on other locations in other areas where it makes us look a lot bigger than we actually are. Well, we're pretty big, but it allows us to expand our reach, is what it allows us to do. But I absolutely love that. And a lot of it also is patients, you go to the doctor's office and let's say you're in pain for whatever reason, or let's say you've had a fall and you get a wheelchair. I'd love history of falls, because that's one of the qualifying things. Oh, I've fallen. You have a history of falls and you call the patient that day. They're going to be very interested in getting that wheelchair. But even let's say if your fax team can't get back to them immediately to say, hey, we're going to do this, they might go to your competitor. They might decide, no, I actually got better. I actually don't need it. There's a lot of things we can lose that sale, and even 10%, that can be tens, if not hundreds of thousands of dollars. So it's really important. We get that fax, we check verification, and we're calling them. Typically, it's not our Fax Wranglers that do that, though we can have Fax Wranglers call for you. We usually have our Fax Wranglers do all of that because we deal with hundreds every single day. And then they're handing it off to the comms team, and the comms team are doing that, where we'll then either call them, text them, email them, depending on what we have on our back end. But the sooner we can do it, the odds are that they're going to buy that product. If you've ever bought a car in the United States, you know, if you go to the car lot, they're going to do whatever they can to get you to leave that car lot with a car. I wouldn't recommend leaving a car lot with a car, just impulse buying, but the car dealership knows the moment you walk off that car lot, the odds of you getting a car from them go down significantly, because you'll either decide against buying a car or you might go to a competitor. It's the same thing with a DME. You know, our competitors and we sell the same CPAP machine. So why us? They might decide, oh, I'm going to go with ABC DME or whatever it happens to be. So the sooner we can close the sale, the better it is for our customers, and our bottom line is really what it comes down to. What's one thing you've learned about fax wrangling in the last year? Just think of one thing. I learned this that you would love to share with our listeners.
I learned that there's a lot of DMEs. So it's not just when I started working on that one, but even up to now, I was like, it was just last week, I think, or 2 weeks ago when I did that. I was like, oh my God, there's a new equipment. I wasn't aware of this.
Yeah. So when you say DMEs, you mean lots of DME equipment?
Equipment, yes, equipment.
Lots of DME equipment out there. Yeah.
Yes. So I was like, wow. So
well,
that
and
was
you've
really
been here as well too. So you're coming to the States again in 2 weeks to work here on site for a week. But yeah, you've seen we have a nice 30,000 square foot building. So you've seen all of our stuff. But even then, you're reading fax going, what is this thing? Yes. And sometimes what will happen is people will see things online. I have a love-hate relationship with like cable news here in the States because, oh, get this thing. And so then people are saying, I would like this widget, whatever it happens to be. And sometimes it's covered by insurance. Sometimes it's not. But yeah, there is so much equipment out there. If you're ever bored someday, go read through the Demi post and just look at HickPicks. It's awesome. That's what I used to do in the old days. Maybe that'll be another episode. Do you know your HickPick? But that's for another day, another time. But what I can say is, how fast can your team go through faxes? And the faster you can get through faxes, the faster you can take care of your customers and do it really, really well. Now, if you don't have someone that can do it at Mach speed, give us a call. April and I can help you. Currently, I think we have 2 fully trained fax wranglers ready for you. And that's the great thing for it. We actually had someone leave our team, is someone that had been with our team for a while and they decided to move to another job. And it was really cool because we had someone trained for another company and we're like, well, let's just grab them from the offsite team. And we slid them right into the place. So Howard's, our primary company, didn't even skip a beat because they had already been training with us. We're like, well, we had set you up for another company and they hadn't called yet. So we slid them in, of course, then hired someone else to go that we're now training for the next company. So we're always training between 2 to 3 employees, i.e. team members, for the next company that just calls us. So when you call us, unless we've had a lot of phone calls that given week, we're always training the next employee. So we're not just going to place someone on your team that knows nothing about DME. They've been actively training in our parent company. So as you have questions, go to offsiteteammember.com. We'd love to talk to you. Even if you're just curious, give me a call. I'll sit down and talk with you for a half hour, or you can talk to Rex or April. We are here to help your local DME just kick butt and name names, because it's hard working against the nationals because they want to take all your business. They want to put you out of business. We are here to help you out. So that's Fax Wrangling 101. And next week, what is next week's podcast, April?
Insurance verification.
Oh, right. So fax wrangling up to insurance verification. But until then, don't get stuck. Just frustrating. What did we do? Where did we lose this fax? Dealing with angry doctors. Let's take great care of our customers, and we hope to see your DME continue to grow. So until then, we'll see you next week.